Splatoon universe, Inklings and Ocklings battle it out to see who can cover the most turf in 3 minutes. Those wanting a harder challenge can compete in other types of battles, ones that include holding control over a zone, maneuvering something towards a goal, and even playing clan-based basketball. Or soccer? What type of sport would this be? No matter the type of match, there's one feature that can be seen in all of them: the splat. An inkfish uses their ink to shoot, blast, or even slosh their opponent back to their spawn. A full team wipeout can be life or death, in more ways than one. And though it seems like a minor detail, these few clips can make me think of 1,000 questions. I guess you can say I have an inkling about it. I'm sorry. I'm your overanalyzer Mason, and today we're overanalyzing the splat. There's a lot I can pick out about splatting, but I've started with these few topics, for your sake and mine. Over the course of the video, we'll dive into each of them. The video will be split into chapters for each topic, but you'll see this chart a lot so we can mark our progress. First up, what is a splat? This question seems to be the easiest, and we can answer it in one sentence. For now, at least. Splats are simply Splatoon versions of kills and deaths. The better question to ask, which just so happens to be the second topic of the video, is why does a splat happen? Here's a splat process, if you will. A friendly inkfish releases ink towards an enemy inkfish on the opposing team. This ink can be from their weapon, their bombs, or even their special. If the ink hits the enemy inkfish, it covers part of their body. This ink coverage is better known in-game as damage. If the enemy inkfish takes enough damage, aka their body is coated in enough opposing ink, now the inkfish has been splat. What happens next? Inkfish have the wonderful ability to respawn. They're lucky to have it. I don't think battles would be much fun if you had to stop after 20 seconds. Just like splats, there's a process behind respawning. Those who have seen my last video already know where I'm going with this, but for those who haven't, listen up. There's 3 steps to the process. Step 1. Go through the splat process. This can be completed in a multitude of ways. Exploding from a weapon, dissolving in water, you get the idea. After your body is destroyed, your ghost is released. This little thing right here. This ghost of yours now must make its way to a spawn point, and the movement just kinda happens on its own. We can go ahead and move on to the final step. Once your ghost reaches a spawn point, it uses ink provided by the point to regrow its body. During battles in Splatoon 3, the visuals of this step happen extremely quickly. It's much easier to see in previous games like Splatoon 2, and especially during Salmon Run. In Salmon Run, the spawn points are the life rings on the back of the slop suits. Unlike the spawn points used during battles, when an inkfish is splat, the small amount of ink in the ring isn't enough for regrowth, but in it, an inkfish is able to move around and super jump. It's not until additional ink is provided that the inkfish can fully revive itself. To recap all these steps, once an inkfish is splat, a ghost is released from its body. The ghost makes its way to a spawn point, and afterwards, uses the surrounding ink to regrow a body. Now about these messages. You'll notice how the message pops up telling the player what splatted them. Generally, it reads splatted by, followed by what caused the death. But if a player is splat in a certain way, the beginning verb is changed. Crushed, squished, sometimes the message changes as a whole. So what counts as splatted? What happens during this splat that matches this splat, but not this one? What do these 3 splats have in common? The answer is simple. They're all ink-based. You were splat by a weapon because it shot enough ink at you. You were splat by a bomb because you were hit by its ink. And even with how different each offensive special is, all of them have ink-based attacks. Although you can only roll over others when you have enough ink, The ink itself isn't what killed you. You were literally squished to death. What a brutal way to add to your death toll, huh? What else can add to it? While playing a match, your opponents aren't the only thing you need to watch out for. One small misstep into water can count towards a wipeout. And unluckily for us, these mistakes also count towards our final death toll. I even tested it to make sure it did. I played a match, purposefully jumped into water, then continued as normal to see if it would count. And it did in fact count. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest, but it proves that any death during a match will count as a splat. The satisfaction of answering the question covers up the pain of having to be the teammate that falls off an eel-tail alley. Trust me, it's worse than it sounds. Throughout the video, I've been using the word splat to refer to an inkfish's death. What is a splat? After an inkfish has been splat. Yada yada yada. But actual promotional ads for Splatoon suggest that there's something more.
Take the fight to your opponents. Or splat, splat, splat. Splat that and that. Splat, 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 splat. Splat, blah, 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 blah. Splat the way you like.
I'm sure that there's other ads and maybe even some in-game text that uses splat the same way, but this iconic clip is what came to mind first. In the ad, splat was used to refer to the action of inking turf, some of which does result in the death of another. But in-game, there's plenty of text that use splat the way I do, to refer to the death of yourself or someone else. So, which splat is the real splat? Which use of the word is actually correct? Well, they're both correct. Let me spell it out for you. The way I see it, the usage reminds me of a timeline. Splat first refers to inking, hence the reason why names like the splatter shot and a splatling can exist. So if an inkfish shoots ink at an enemy, they're also technically splatting them. And when an inkfish shoots enough ink, they will splat the enemy. So the splatted will see a splatted by message since their death was caused by ink, and a splatter will get a splatted so-and-so message since at this point, the word splat refers to the enemy's death. Then, once the enemy responds, the timeline can do a loop. The enemy splats around, the teammate splats the enemy, and the enemy becomes splatted. As an overanalyzer, this is what I strive for. It's like I'm playing connect the dots, and all my dots are finally creating a bigger picture. Although the picture may be a little jumbled up for other people. So, let's end with a summary to really tie all the topics together. A splat can actually refer to two things, either general inking or to an inkfish's death. Deaths that are methodically caused by ink are specifically called splats, but an inkfish death by any cause counts as a splat. After being splat, an inkfish goes through a respawn process. The first step, if it somehow hasn't been already, is that an inkfish's body has to be destroyed in order for its ghost to be released. Then, the ghost makes its way to a spawn point. And after that, the ghost uses surrounding ink from the spawn point to grow a new body. In some cases, like during Salmon Run, a spawn point won't provide enough ink for full regeneration, and additional ink will have to be provided. That's all the analyzing I'll do for now. I think I got most of the details right. And with that, Mason out. Let me spell it out for you. Wait, actually, let me splat it out for you. You get it? Splat, ink, spell. You spell stuff with ink and pens. It made sense in my head.